Thank you for joining us, everyone. We'll be getting started in just a moment. Thank you for joining us, folks. We'll be getting started in just a minute once we've admitted all the participants. Thank you for joining us, folks. We're just about to get underway. We're just admitting all the participants into the webinar. Good evening, everyone. My name is John Taves, and I'm the event coordinator at McNally Robinson Booksellers in Winnipeg. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that McNally Robinson is located on Treaty 1 territory, so we're broadcasting from the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. In addition, McNally Robinson Booksellers itself rests on the land once occupied by the Métis community of Roostertown. We are gathered here tonight with many thanks to tonight's publishers, Yellow Dog, which is an imprint of Great Plains Publications, to celebrate the launch of My Left Skate, the extraordinary story of Eliezer Sherbatov. We'll be hearing from both Eliezer and the author, Anna Rosner, in just a few moments, but just a few housekeeping notes before we get underway. So there'll be a conversation right at the beginning of the event between Anna and Eliezer after Anna has said a few words about the book. Following that, there'll also be the opportunity for you folks to ask questions. So please do feel free to ask any questions that might occur to you over the evening, just in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. Live, imperfect, automatically generated captions are also available. Those can be accessed just by pressing the CC button, which is also at the bottom of the screen. And of course, ultimately, we would love to get copies of this book into your hands. So I'll put some information as to how you can go about getting a copy of the book into the chat once I'm finished speaking. When it comes to the chat, there is a live chat that's activated this evening, so please feel free to chat amongst yourselves or offer any comments you might like. I'll be sure to pass them along to the participants at the end of the evening. Now, based on extensive interviews, My Left Skate, the extraordinary story of Eliezer Sherbatov, is a first-person biography of a teenager who had it all on the hockey rink: guts, drive, and exceptional talent. When a freak accident leaves him with a permanent disability and no feeling below his left knee, everyone believed Eliezer's career was over. Everyone except his mother, a professional power skating coach. She taught Eliezer to skate using the muscles in his upper leg, and after 2.5 years of operations and rehabilitation, he returned to the rink to become one of Quebec's elite junior players. This book tells the story of his professional career in Europe, leading him from France, Kazakhstan, Slovakia, and on to Poland, just a few kilometers away from the Auschwitz death camp, haunted by memories of the past. And in its stunning conclusion, My Left Skate describes Eliezer's life in Ukraine and his struggle to escape from the war after Russia invades the very region in which he was playing. So you'll hear all about that incredible story, that incredible journey over the course of the evening. Now, moderating this conversation, and one of our guests of honor tonight is, of course, Anna Rosner. She is a Toronto teacher and author who has published short story fiction, numerous scholarly articles, and the children's biography, Journeyman, the story of NHL right-winger Jamie Leach, which was selected as a best book by the Canadian Children's Book Centre and was a finalist for the High Plains Book Award. We had the great pleasure of launching that book virtually as well a while ago. And so if you're interested in that, as you certainly should be, it's a fascinating interview. You can check that out on our YouTube channel as well. Anna's the director of Books with Wings, which provides new quality picture books for Indigenous children who reside in isolated Canadian communities. So please join me in giving a very warm virtual welcome to Anna Rosner.
Hi, so I just wanted to start off by thanking everyone for coming and for the book's warm reception, and thank you so much, John, for that introduction. I want to, before I start, thank Eliezer especially for being here tonight. Eliezer is recovering from a concussion that he received in a game a couple of weeks ago. And at the same time, he'll be speaking his third language. So it can't be easy. And I'm really grateful that he's here. So I'm going to briefly describe the process of writing My Left Skate, and then I'll ask Eliezer some questions. I first contacted Ellie in 2020 during the pandemic, after reading about him in the Globe and Mail in an article by Marty Klinkenberg. And at first he was a bit reticent to accept my book proposal because he was in the midst of a big media storm already due to his decision to play in Poland for Auschwitz or Auschwitz in German. But I was very patient, and I waited 3 months before I contacted him again. And I think at that point, the pandemic had taken over, things were quieter. And I sort of tried to convince him that he had lived a remarkable life and one worthy of being in a book. And I hope by now he believes me that his life is certainly extraordinary. So the book is based on extensive interviews that took place over a year at least. And I also interviewed Eliezer's parents, Anna and Alexei, and because I wanted to get a sense of their lives living as Russian Jews, and also their lives in Israel, because they fled Russia due to anti-Semitism and corruption. So they were really helpful, giving me background, and actually Alexei read some of the chapters just to make sure that I'd got it right. So huge thank you to them. And I think the last chapter of the book also has its own story, because as John mentioned, Eliezer was playing in Ukraine when the war broke out. And on February 24th, I woke up to the news that the Russians had invaded the Donbass, where Eliezer was living. And so then I think I lived the longest 4 days of my life, because we were, of course, in contact at that point. And I knew that he had decided to take a train across the country. And when I finally learned that he was safe, I think he texted me from the train to say that he was headed towards Lviv, aided by the Israeli embassy. And then I think I cried for relief for a second. And then I called my editor and I said, we have to have another chapter in the book, even though it was very late and the book was almost being set at that point. So we actually sort of stopped things, and I took a few weeks to try and piece together his escape from Ukraine. Finally, the book has an interesting linguistic journey, I think, because Eliezer and I spoke only in French for all the interviews, and then I translated that into English to the book. And then when the book was purchased by Urtubise in Quebec, just in March or April of this year, it was translated back into French by the wonderful André Gagnon, who did it out of a labor of love. He's actually a senior editor that loves hockey. So we're incredibly grateful to him and to Urtubise for giving this book a French life. And I also want to say how grateful we are to Great Plains for believing in this story. I have a wonderful editor, Katrina, who just sees things that I don't. She's wonderful. And I'm very grateful also to Mel and Keith and the marketers, because they have to put up with me and all my questions. So we'll talk more about the book and its processes in a couple of seconds, but I'm going to ask Elie to turn on his camera and sound.
Hi everyone.
Hey.
Glad to be
Okay.
here.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. So I'm going to start by asking you the same question that I asked Jamie Leach 2 years ago, almost exactly, when I launched Journeyman. And that is, what is it like to have someone delving into your mind for almost a year in 3-hour-long Zoom interviews and force you to revisit all of your memories, some good, some bad?
Well, like you said, at the beginning, I didn't think I was just having. For me, it was a normal life. I was, having my injury, my disability. Uh, I'm going through stuff throughout my career. For me, it's normal. I go down, I get back up. I go down. For me, it's normal. What my parents taught me, the education they gave me. For me, it's a normal life. But I really want to thank you. I'm going to take the time to thank you because this book made me realize and I could have made a step back and really look back at my life. What did I do good? Because for me, everything I do, it's not good enough. It's never good enough. But now I can really be proud of myself and really read the exploit and the downfalls and then the getting back up. So this is a big thanks to you and all those hours of Zoom and talking about my life. So talking about my family, listening to uh, my parents talk, how they live, how they got through, because they never were very open to talk about their immigrations, in details. They spoke about it, but not in details. And for me, it's such an honor to listen to them, how they went through it, and it just made it so much better how they went through. And so now I even take less for granted. I didn't take for granted, but now it's even like less. So I don't know how to say it in English, but it's even so. Yeah, it's a big thanks to you and Great Plains and Irtubi is the best Great Plains that they made this book possible.
Yeah, I agree. And your parents probably deserve their own book, I think, and your brothers too. I mean, everybody in the family needs a book, I think.
Yeah.
So, so many people know the incredible story of why your family was permitted to immigrate to Canada. But for those who don't, I'll talk really quickly. Eliezer's father was asked during his immigration interview in Israel, just one question, which is, why do you want to live in Montreal rather than, Anglophone Canada? And Alexei turned to the translator and said, should I tell him the truth? And the translator said, yes, tell him the truth. And Eliezer's father said, I chose Quebec because I want one of my children to skate like Guy Lafleur. And the immigration officer happened to be from Quebec. So he almost cried. And then he just stood up and told Alexei that he had passed the interview and that the family would be Canadian. So Eliezer, your father clearly had a dream. And I think a lot of children live their lives in some ways, if not completely, for their parents. And as I mentioned, both your parents had, they fled Moscow, they fled Israel in some ways. I'm looking for peace, I think. It's more stable life. And they gave up a lot of dreams along the way. Your father was a mechanical engineer with a degree from the University of Moscow, but he was boxing frozen pizzas, in Montreal, which is a story that many immigrants go through. I think my grandfather was the same. He probably dreamed of being a violinist, but wound up doing different things. So just to eat. So it's a lot of pressure on the children of immigrants, I think. And my question for you is, do you think that being that child, being your parents' child especially, puts an extra pressure on you and your brothers, and maybe a different kind of pressure than other kids might feel?
So I think as kids, we take a lot of stuff for granted. My parents are gonna pay for this. My parents are gonna take care of it. My
Yeah.
parents. Um, the for me, the pressure of having a good life and being successful, I think is very important, because I knew what my parents went through, and I understood the sacrifices that they made, because when you don't have children, you don't really understand. But now that I have children of my own, I can really feel what they've been through. If we weren't here, if we wouldn't existed, they would have stayed in Moscow, and they would have a different life. But because of us, they had to sacrifice. They had to go through those immigration. They had to put away their dreams, their
Mm,
life completely, that what they thought they're gonna do and what they dreamed of doing,
mm,
because of me and my brothers. And for me to be here in Canada, and one of the best countries in the world, uh, um, I never thought, or never wanted to say, oh, I'm gonna let go, I'm not gonna do it. For me, it's not it wasn't in my vocabulary, because
mm,
I had to, because I wanted to, because I understood, I had some conscious. And I think this book, it really shows, and it's meant for young adults, this book. And I really appreciate that we made this book for young adults, like we did, and not for adults. But even though the adults love more the book than the young adults, so at the end, it's for both. But it was meant to be for young adults, and for me, it's very important that that they read the book, and they comprehend what their parents sacrifice, what they do, and when it's time to let go, you cannot think only about yourself. You have people that really sacrifice their dreams and their life for you. So
mm.
that's
Yeah.
my thought on my
Do,
parents.
do you think that your father's dream of raising a child to skate like Ilafleur became your dream in the end?
Yes, it was. And for me, it was it was an extra pressure always to be successful, because I understood what they did for me. And I always wanted to be the best hockey player. I wanted to be the rocket on the ice. So you know that's why, like it's written in the book, when I was injured and I didn't play hockey for 3 years, the Sherbatov household, let's say, it wasn't the best years of our family,
Mm.
because I don't want to say too much from the book, because I want you guys to read it. But um,
Yeah.
I was, I was angry, I was mad, and I was mad at my parents, but not because of them, but because of me, because in some way I was letting them down. So
Mhm.
yeah, so it was a hard 3 years, let's say, because I didn't fulfill the dream of my parents, and my dream, because it became my dream.
Mhm. I think so too. Yeah. So you've lived all over the world, in I think 6, 7 countries probably in the past 10 years. And in fact, you really haven't been home until now, because you traveled from age 19, you went to France, then to Kazakhstan, then to Bratislava, in Slovakia, then to Poland, then to Ukraine, and now you're home again. I mean, in between those countries, you were traveling still, playing with different leagues. And you hold 3 passports. You are Russian, Israeli, and Canadian passports, which is pretty rare, I think. And all of these countries are a part of you. There's a writer I really like, in Malouf, and he's a Christian Arab, but and he also has Lebanese and French nationality, both. And he once wrote that you should never have to choose between any affiliations or any nationalities that you hold. Like, for example, you should never have to say, you never have to answer the question, are you more Quebecois than Israeli, or more Israeli than Russian, or more Russian than, anything else? They're just who you are, all of these things, and you should just embrace them, and it makes you a better person. So I'm not going to ask you to choose from all those affiliations, but can you comment on how, like, all of these countries and cultures that now so well, how have they contributed to the person that you've become?
I don't want to pinpoint a nationality, a religion. Yes, I'm Jewish. This is.
No, you're not supposed to.
But nationality wise, I am who I am. Quebec brought me so much, and I say I am Quebecois. Russia brought my parents, and they gave me this Russian, Soviet Union mentality. I am Russian because I have this mentality. I am Israeli. I'm born there. I'm Jewish. This is my heritage. So I cannot say I'm one more than the other. I am who I am. And it brought me, and I'm happy because all those countries that I went through, I think it helped me in some way go through it with all this knowledge from different nationalities. And that's why I always like to mix the mixed couples. So they make mixed babies. So you get different cultures, and you get people not more empathy, but they understand more the other person.
Yeah.
Because I've traveled in different continents, and you see the culture. They're so different. And one culture would say, but those people, they're crazy. No, it's impossible. How is this? But the other culture looks at them and says, no, this is crazy. What is this? Even possible? But if you live and you understand and you get this perspective, then you'll start understanding each other. So I cannot pinpoint that I'm one nationality more than the other.
And we're all connected, right?
Absolutely. And hockey, what made me understand really what's happening around the world, and I'm very, very grateful that I had the chance to play hockey.
Mm-hmm. I always cry at the Olympics, in fact, because even like high jump, I always cry when someone wins, because I just feel like it's the one time when sports has brought the whole world together, and no one has, there are no borders. It's just people, loving their sport and competing, and I think that's what's beautiful about it, despite the corrupt organization or the bureaucracies. But it's still, there's something beautiful about it, about everybody helping, others, and just loving their, having a passion for sport.
I think that's how they should go about the problems in the world. You're not happy? Do the Olympics. The winner gets everything. Gets the land. The winner gets the money.
Okay. This is a solution, I guess. Yeah. So for those who haven't read the book, I think John mentioned I decided on the title, My Left Skate, because Eliezer has no feeling below his left knee since the age of 14, when a serious rollerblading accident kept him out of hockey for 2.5 years. And he also had 3 operations during that time. He returned to hockey at 17 and actually became the top scorer, I think, in Quebec in AAA hockey. So went from doing absolutely nothing to the very top. And that was largely due to his mother, who was a professional power skating coach and still is. So Eliezer wears a brace to walk at all times, but when he is on an ice rink, he doesn't need a brace because the skate acts as a brace, keeping his foot in an L shape. So my question is, how has this disability contributed to the person that you are today?
It's me. I would literally not be the same person. I think I would be like an arrogant little prick. That's what I would be. At the end of the day, I'm being honest with myself. I think I'm very lucky that, yes, I have my parents that made me humble, made me who I am. But still, when you're perfect, you're healthy, you're the best, everything is going, you still got this confidence, and you still got this um I don't want to say cockiness. I don't know how to say the think
Confidence.
above than the others. But I think the disability, what it made me, I really had to make a huge step back. And when I made it to somehow to the top, I didn't say, "Hey, look at me." I'm saying, okay, I'm proud of what I did. Okay, what's our next step? What do we do? To really build my character, because I never, and any team I went, I never had a margin of error. I always had to prove myself every single second, because the fact that the team took a small player. I'm not big. I'm 170, 5'7", which is very small in hockey. Plus this with the disability, coach really takes me in maybe some kind of favor. So if I don't do the work every single second, I'm out. And I never gave a chance to any team in my career to put me away in any team that I made. So it really, I couldn't let go. I couldn't stop. It's day by day, second by second. I had to go. I couldn't. It was impossible, or else I didn't have the margin of error. It's simple as that. Simple as that.
You had to give 150% every day.
But it's not. I think 150. It's not the a normal person should give 150, because you got to put in extra work. But I couldn't go. I didn't go to bars. I didn't have a really very fun before 25, before 26 years old. From 19 to 26, I wasn't really having fun in my social life, because I was really focused on
working
and going to my goals. Because when I restarted to play hockey and played mid AAA, and I had this great season individually and the team, I said, okay, we go or we stop. And I chose to go, and that's why the moment I go until the end.
Okay. So you made the decision to play for the Auschwitz team hockey team in Poland in 2020. And that was an amazing decision, and also a very controversial decision. And we talked about how you were haunted by a lot of different things in the city, and the proximity of your apartment and to the concentration camp by the river, which you once described as being filled with ashes, and by criticism from a rabbi on Twitter who disagreed with your choice. So there was just a ton of pressure. And your first game was a very emotional one. So can you describe what it was like to step on the ice and hear the crowd explode, and then to score your first goal in your very first game?
It's I'm glad that I had really a lot of surreal moments, whether stepped on the ice for the first time as the first Israeli in the KHL, whether I scored my first goal in the K, whether I replayed Major Triple A, or I had to step on the ice in front of the fans in Auschwitz, where my ancestors was killed in this same spot. And for me at that moment, it was some kind of surreal. But then again, hockey saved my life and keeps on saving my life. And for me, the moment I step on the ice, I have one goal, and it's to win a game. And that moment when I scored the goal and I saw those fans cheering for me, I had my heart wanted to just jump out of my chest, because just 75 years before, 6 million Jews died across Europe, and more than 1 million died in this same city, in the same footsteps. So it was something special. It was something special. It's I think you're the best to describe it, Anna. I think you describe it so well for me, because I the hours we spoke about it in the book, it was difficult. It was difficult to remember, to reminisce, because it was for me, it was a dark year. But it's very well explained, and you tell my emotions so good in that book that I get emotional when reading. So, I mean, it's my story. So
it's
yeah,
an emotional
it was a surreal moment, very surreal.
Yeah. And the world was watching, and I think everyone was very proud of your choice, in fact. So just the last question. We talked about how you were in Ukraine. I mentioned in the introduction, and when the war broke out, and on the 24th of February, 3 bombs exploded just 20 minutes from your hotel. And it was just luck that you happened to be 2 hours north of Mariupol, because things might have been different had you not. So this is a war that still rages on, and in some ways, I guess, more terrible, as we know how many civilians have been lost, and there's talk of nuclear arms, things like that. So the question I wanted to, we talked a lot about it, but how does being a victim of political violence change you? Because in Canada, we're very sheltered. I mean, we are fortunate enough to live in peace, and I think sometimes we take it for granted. But how have those 5 days changed your perspective?
I don't think it changed my whole person in some way. It gave me a trauma, which now requires professional help, because I have to get through this, because I never went through this. I never lived it. I never thought of living it. For me, I just wanted to play hockey. That was my whole goal. That's why I went back after my disability. My whole life, I just wanted to play hockey, and this happened. Like I said, it's difficult. It was a difficult 6 months. Let's say it's the past 6 months that I'm back. I'm very happy that this past month I really can see my children as in the moment, be present with them, and be loving, and be a father. And I always think about the Ukrainians that are still there, and they're still living what they're living, and they don't have a chance to breathe. So I think it's very important, going through all this. I'm gonna say one thing, because it's a book meant for young adults, and I'm talking to adults as well. if you need help, if there's something goes wrong, go get help. If you need to call, if you don't feel good, there's something that happened, don't leave it to yourself. I lived it, I felt it. Go get some help if you need it. I think it's very important because everybody gets dark times in their ways. Yes, there's people that go try to evade war. There's people that get a breakup and they feel as bad. Um, Never let nothing inside of you coping. Talk about it and share it with your family. And what I understood is I always understood what love is. Um, it's always in the back of my head what love is: love of your family, love of your kids, your parents, your spouse. But now I really feel it. I understand it. And there's nothing more powerful than love. Love of hockey, love of wanting to loving yourself. And this is because when you really love yourself, it's because you want to get better as a person, mentally, physically. So I think I understood that love is really the most powerful thing on earth, in the universe. That's what my perspective and person is as of now. Maybe it'll change, but I think it's not going to change anymore.
Wise words, absolutely. And you have so much living to do. I mean, you're so young, 31 years old, and your life is just beginning in so many ways. And you have such a wonderful perspective already, and so worldly. I mean, not just from all the countries, but just from all that you've learned from everyone that you've met along the way. So last question, you're playing now in a professional league in Quebec. What's next? And then where do you see yourself in the next few years?
I really love my students. I have such a big passion, and the Sherbatov family have this huge passion of teaching, of making. And I see my brothers and I see my mother when she teaches kids, when she brings kids to NHL level from a young age. And it's in my blood. I have this passion. I get really emotional when a kid learn from me, or it's not getting there yet. It's not getting there, and I get really emotional. And that's my passion. I put my effort, I sweat every practice, and this is not something that I'm gonna get tired of it, because I love evolution, an evolution of a kid. And I really want to develop them, not only physically in the gym or on the ice. I really want to develop them mentally, because I've been through, and I can say there's some experience with the book. I really can help mentally. And I think this is a huge part in an athlete, in a young kid, especially in this new generation where the remedy is it's a pill. The remedy is I let go. The remedy, the generation, the social media and etc. So I really want to help them mentally as well. So not just take my paycheck and then I train the kid and go. I want to keep pushing them outside of our practice. I want to call the parents and say, what, how is he doing? Is he okay? How was the game? I want to go to the games. I really want to get involved in their life, because as soon as they step on the ice or they go at the gym and I train them and I scream at them, they become Sherbatov kids. Simple as that.
Like your mom.
Yes.
She has a reputation in Quebec. All of Quebec is afraid of your mom, I think. Yeah. So I think that's it. There's a couple of questions, but before you answer them, I just want to say, thank you so much for sharing your life with me for 2 years. And, meeting with you and working with you was one of the best things I ever did.
Thank you. I think I can give you the same thanks. It was just an amazing experience, and I think we found in ourselves a friendship that is gonna last for the rest of our lives. So thank you.
For sure. So John, I think John's going to field some questions.
Yes, indeed. So thank you both very much for the conversation. We do have a number of questions from the audience. So appropriately enough, given the last comment, David was wondering, have you considered turning your collaboration with Anna into a movie?
Well,
oh, asking me. Well, yes, this is something that a lot of readers are telling me, you are crazy if you are not putting this in a movie. So yes, there's some steps towards towards this, maybe documentary, maybe animation movie. But yes, but you have to understand, it's only the beginning. We just launched together, so it's only the beginning. We'll see. We'll see where life brings us.
Perfect. And David was wondering, given your ongoing disability and your smaller body size, how did your teammates treat you initially when you started playing hockey?
Oh, yeah, this is, we had a lot of conversation with Anna about this. Yeah, you know, before 25 or before 24, I don't remember really the age, I didn't have a brace. You know, I didn't want to walk with a big cast on my foot. You know, I go play professional hockey and I have a big cast. So people were laughing at me. People didn't understand what's happening, that a guy cannot walk, is limping. And they couldn't understand it. They were somehow getting mad that I was doing better, or scoring more goals or skating faster than them, and they were getting mad. So it was, especially when I'm young, I wasn't a veteran. It wasn't very liked in some way, especially in the Russian Russian parts. Yeah.
Perfect. So, and I will just mention, if anybody does have any further questions, you're welcome to write them in the Q&A box and we'll get to them. But Barbara, who mentions that she loved the book, asks, how does your wife cope with your long absences? And mentions that she must be a very special person.
I think she's yeah, so if Barbara read the book, yeah, we met at 15 years old. You know, everything is meant to be. I stopped hockey for 3 years and I went into a public school, which is Saint Maxime, a normal school. And the first day I came to school, I was 1 week late. And the first class of the first day of my first week late, I sat down and behind me sat Somali, and this is where I met her. And then I always say she fell in love with me the first day. But she's gonna say the contrary. But yeah, she's very special, and
she was patient.
She's patient, but she's so joyful and she's so happy always. She's always happy, and I don't understand how, but she's always happy, and she made me happy, and she just give this happiness to me, and I really loved her and she loved me, and we had one goal, and it's to share our love even at distance. And now we have two beautiful kids together. So yeah, she's a special one. I'm the lucky. I can say I'm the lucky one now. Yeah, she's special, but she had her tough times. I wasn't you know, to be away. And with hockey, I didn't always have time, so you know, to talk to her, and it was difficult for her, and but she went through those tough times, and she believed in me, and it's amazing that you the person that you share your life with believes in you more than you believe in yourself, because yeah, she's especially now what I've been through after Ukraine, the trauma. I was literally down and more down than I ever been, and she was there to pick me up, and she still
Mm.
is. So it's man, I'm very lucky, very
Mm.
very lucky.
She needs her own book too. And her parents as well. It's a whole story.
And her parents, they went through the Khmer War, so yeah, she understands me, and yeah.
Well, speaking of your children, we had two questions as well. Wendy was wondering how old your children were. And Mel was mentioning, as your kids get older, would you be excited or worried if they are as passionate about something as you were with hockey, and that you had to give up so much in order to pursue it?
Wow, that's a very good question, actually. That I think it's better than any journalist question I ever had. But it's true. This is the first time usually I answer a question and it's usually on repeat. But this is first time. My kids are my boy Tuvia is going to be 1 year old at the end of the month, and my girl, she's going to be 3 in February. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's such a tough question, but I think it's so important to find your passion. I think it's so important to find a place where you can just feel free. When I was on the ice, it was the only moment where I can feel myself and feel free, that I'm not disabled, that I'm not uh, not good enough. I feel that I am who I am. I'm the person. I'm powerful, and it was on the ice, and that's what I wish for my kids. Yes, if they're gonna tell me I'm gonna live for 11 years in different countries to go for my passion, I might think 2 times. Maybe choose the countries where she goes, or my boy where he goes. But um yes, I really wish they are as passionate and find their joy in life. Yes, I do.
And Robert and Marlene were wondering if you experienced any anti-Semitism while playing in Europe.
A lot. A lot. It's unfortunate, but I always, you know, my whole career, my whole life, I think my parents won't agree with me. There's people that won't agree with me, but my whole life I always tried to find the good in person. I tried to tell myself people are good, everybody's good. It's impossible somebody is gonna do something bad to you for because they want to. And when I was in Ukraine, it's the same thing. I never thought that they would do something like this. And the anti-Semitism, I never thought that somebody's gonna go and tell me you though some bad words about anti-Semitism. And I never thought, I am who I am. I'm a normal person. When I look at anybody, I would say, I'm like, wow, this is you, this is you. Like, I'm happy for you, something positive. um so for me, when I had those, as an adult, when I had those moments, I tell myself this person has maybe problems mentally, or is not a happy person in his household. There's something wrong with his family. He's not happy, or there's something wrong and not good happening in his life, in order for a person to do something bad to another for no reason. Simple as that. So I never got too angry at this point. Only that time when I had to fight. It's in the book. um, because when you poke a bear, it's just so many times you get you get angry. So you had to stop. So yes, I had to tell people to stop, or else I'm gonna use my physical advantages, which is mixed martial arts, and that I'm doing since I'm 5 years old, and the trainings I've been doing with my brother. So yes, I had my fair share, but I don't blame them, because I know they're going through some bad things in their life in order to say or do bad stuff.
Oh, thank you, Eliezer. This is a question for Anna. As you wrote this book and Journeyman, how did your daily life shift as you were inhabiting a different person and a different voice so deeply? Did you find yourself almost thinking differently as a result?
That's a great question. I think that I became Eliezer Sherbatov for maybe 10 months. And it was great. I loved being Eliezer Sherbatov. It was much more interesting, I think, than my own life in some ways. And I think at certain points in the book, there are some places where my voice can be heard. Maybe when we talk about being children or grandchildren of immigrants, maybe his experiences in Poland as well. I mean, we understood each other in a lot of ways. His reaction to things, it was exactly how I felt I would have reacted. So I got to live in his head, and yeah, it was fun. I had a good time. So that's about it.
Well, thank you so much, Anna, and thank you, Eliezer. We are at we've come to the end of the Q&A portion, so I'm not sure if either of you had any closing comments you might like to make before I just remind people again how they can get a copy of this book.
I just wanted to add what Anna said. It's for you to to write the book and be inside of my head and be me for so long. People now, when they have problems, when they go through some stuff, they go through racism, they go through a disability, they go through trauma, they go through stuff, they can relate. And this is the most important. When you read a book, you want to relate to this person, to the circumstances, to the events, to the obstacles, and I think you did a wonderful job to be me, and then to write this in words, so people get the chance to read and relate and maybe save some lives. And I think this is the most important, because obviously it's not for money. There's we all know it's not big, so it's really it's for the next generation, and it's for the people, and like I said, it's maybe to save some lives. So thank you.
Okay.
Great. Well,
I think we're ready. I just want to say very quickly that we are so grateful of the Bees and Great Plains for believing in this story. It was a long journey. I think it's been 2 years, but I'm just so glad it came to fruition. And like I said, Eliezer, you're an inspiration to everyone. So thank you, everyone.
No, and thank you both so much, not only for writing this book in the first place, but also for taking the time to just chat and share, and for both of your openness about the process and about your own life, Eliezer. There's a comment from Marjorie in the chat right now that says that it is such a fabulous book, and this discussion has been heartwarming and inspiring, and it truly has. The book's subtitle is The Extraordinary Story of Eliezer Sherbatov, and it is absolutely extraordinary. It certainly lives up to its own title. So thank you all for being here with us tonight, for all of your questions and for your attention. Again, copies of this wonderful book are available from McNally Robinson. So get in touch with us one way or another. Give us a call, show up, send us an email. We will find a way to get a copy of this book into your hands. And I'd just like to thank everybody at Great Plains once again for publishing this book and so many other incredible books. It's always such a pleasure to collaborate with them. So thank you all so very much, and have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Night.